The holidays are over, folks, and I have an excellent idea.
Let's change the subject.
Perfect. How about those wacky and wonderful matching fast food uniforms that we all loved, or love to hate on? You know they looked sharp behind the counter, filling orders and wiping tables, even in all that doo-doo brown. But I always remember them looking like a great team, cohesive and working together. No matter their questionable wardrobe, they always seemed to manage to muster a genuine smile. I'm Victor, and straight out of the GEN Xperience, the groovy uniforms that welcomed us at every burger joint or chicken shack. Before the uniform became basic polos and t-shirts, unique and funky fast food uniforms were once commonplace, along with pleasant interactions. In honor of the recent passing of America's First Lady of Waitressing, Alice, let's revisit our favorite hip and stylin' standard issue that brought excitement to every kid who stepped up to a counter or took a seat. Basic brown. Everyone was doing it, but let's start with the Mac Daddy, or in this case, the Big Mac of fast food, McDonald's. Most everyone watching this show will remember the dark brown uniforms for the restaurant staff, but it wasn't always that way. Prior to going full baby poop brown, the brand offered various colors and styles that popped through the 70s. There was yellow, red, green, and even blue. The options lent itself to the optimism of the late 70s, as seen in the late 70s version of the Mickey Mouse Club. However, by the late 70s and into the 80s, the color palette that can only be described as hamburger was the most popular option. With that touch of yellow for the M and some white, this polyester two-piece was the earth tones that went with everything. And vertical stripes are slimming, so there's that. To top it all off was the widely recognizable and clearly fashion-forward accessory on top, the hat. The soda jerk style hat made sense as these uniforms did retain the elements of a typical diner and soda fountain design. Light and breathable yet useful to catch forehead sweat, they were disposable yet remain branded. If you wanted to spice things up, maybe you could tip it forward on the side over one eye and be the bad boy of the after-school crew. Now don't get mad at me because you had to wear it. We all loved seeing the consistent color army and the service you came to expect when excitedly entering the fast food giant. Lastly, we can't forget the Star Lady, the McDonald's hostess who mingled with the guests and helped with parties. In this fashionable little number of ketchup, mayo, and mustard, modeled after Ronald himself, she also poured coffee to patrons in what looks to be an ad from Mickey D. Airlines. Gone are these costumes, as well as the Star Lady. Oh, and there is no McDonald's airline, so don't try to book. Speaking of Mickey Mouse Club in the 70s, let's talk Julie Piekarski and Taco Bell. You thought I was going right to BK, didn't you? Well, don't worry, we'll get there. But Julie, along with Lisa Welschow, was both a member of the groovy Mickey Mouse Club of the 70s and the TV show The Facts of Life. When Julie was axed after the first season of the show, she found commercial stardom for the Bell. Taco Bell has been fiddling with their uniforms since the 60s and has had an array of options. Which do you remember most? From simply bold and bright colors with stripes to something that looks to be inspired more from the Mexican Guayabera shirt. Sort of. Kinda maybe, but with plain stripes and a supersized collar, of course. Mustache not required. Taco Bell's variety of staff uniforms always identified them as a workforce always ready to help teach you about Mexican food, like Patrick Duffy here. Well, Tex-Mex food maybe, or some variation of Tex-Mex. I'm pretty sure the enchilada was a fusion before that was even trendy. Looking closely, you may see the small logo in the original font, but what I first see is the very polyester material that makes me uncomfortable just thinking about wearing it. Which did you like best? The original bright shirt with vertical stripes? The yellow with pockets? The brown with striped top? Whatever this is, or even this deep red with 7-Eleven diagonal stripes? Even Taco Bell couldn't escape the standard hamburger color, or more accurately, the ground beef shade of brown uniforms, accented with pinstripes of various colors that scream, Fiesta! By the 90s, Taco Bell was going full Saved by the Bell with their bright and obnoxious colors, and a Chihuahua was calling the shots. Do you know what a brazier is? Our Dairy Queen was a brazier. As a kid, I thought it was a strange name for soft serve, but in reality, it's a portable heater for burning charcoal. And if your DQ was also a brazier, it was probably serving hot food. But I have my doubts that it came from charcoal cooking. Well, that all doesn't explain the tight-woven brown, red, and yellow striped button-up with bright red placket into the collar. Or the opposite, with a bright red shirt and crisscross pinstripes up the placket as well as the additional pocket. Even the headscarf was just an extension of the common style of the time. There was even a matching V-neck, but can you blame them? It was cold in those Dairy Queens. It just depended on the mood you were in that day working at the DQ.
Guess I could just go back to the Dairy Queen, you know. They said they'd take me back. I always have a place at the Dairy Queen.
A family favorite not only for peanut butter parfaits and dilly bars, but even hot dogs and hamburgers. Needless to say, as the end of the 70s turned into the 80s, even the soft-serve leader went all burger brown in a version of the uniforms sporting the same intersecting pinstripes, but down the center and on the shoulders. For decades, the paper soda jerk hat was the go-to, but also made way for visors and small caps of all sizes that were popular among many of our favorite hangouts. And that's just what these were. From McDonald's to Dairy Queen, this is where we hung out and even met up with friends. They weren't always rushed meals, but a place to socialize and maybe talk that one friend who worked behind the counter wearing one of those infamous prints of polyester to slip you a free Mr. Misty every once in a while. I know that was Wendy in the song, not Wendy, but I always thought it would have been great marketing for Wendy's old-fashioned hamburgers, don't you? When I was a kid, Wendy's convinced me burgers were once square in the good old days. It was called old-fashioned hamburgers after all. Although the employees might have felt a little square when wearing these uniforms, they were a standout amongst the crowded marketplace, never falling for the Dookie Brown standard of the other establishments with their logo and namesake Wendy as inspiration. Oh, no, not the real inspiration, but the stylized one. It's not a stretch to see their costumes seem a bit more Main Street USA in theming. The color, the stripes, and even that hat. Not sure about that early 70s smock for the female, however. Easy on, easy off, I suppose. This apron of sorts goes right along with her headscarf and guards the young ladies from getting any unsightly grease stains on dainty clothes. So, what did you think of Wendy's turn-of-the-century costumes? I'll admit, I'm a sucker for those headscarves on any costume. Even the guys' hats follow that same motif, and the color is right from a turn-of-the-century American General store. The whole thing looks rather comfy, unlike those scratchy, just-to-look-at-them thick polyester kind. It looks like actress Edie McClurg is a fan, and supports Dave Thomas's costume choices too.
He's a righteous dude.
By the 80s, the evolution of the uniform had changed little, and with small details of blue on the sleeve and the reduced cut of the collar and smaller hat, the generic costume was for both the men and the women, and was perfect for serving up freshly made burgers or some Bic razors. Conan was not even afraid to show off his love of the old-fashioned burger, proudly sporting the familiar look. See? Anyone could look good in this little number. Perhaps that's how Wendy's could proudly be the fastest fast food in town. Candy striper or KFC employee? Having just transitioned from some other bright red uniforms with bold white stripes for women, the Nehru collared red shirt was accompanied by a red and white striped apron. The men also had a coordinating vest. Still wearing a typical gas pump jockey short-sleeve button-up, the striped vest accented the Kentucky Colonel or string bow tie that had the guys cosplaying Colonel Sanders. The bright and gaily designed colors matched the red and white striped boxes KFC would be famous for, and it's a little bit like camouflage. And even so, they still seem to represent the hospital candy striper, and you know how much respect they get.
What?
You're a doctor. I didn't see your badge. Sorry.
I'm a doctor. So why the hell am I talking to you? Piss off.
As was expected, Kentucky too bought into the brown. Brown was a good idea for a place that worked in deep fry grease like an artist works in oils, and it just hid the stains. Between Wendy's and KFC, there always seemed to be a little ferals in their uniform. Do you remember them? KFC's biggest accessory was the giant hat for the ladies. For many years, the oversized cap was an option, and eventually seemed to be a good idea to put your hair up and keep it out of the food, especially if you had a lot of hair. That thing looks like it could hide an entire bucket of chicken. The only thing royal about Burger King's costumes were the parade of stars who modeled them in the late 70s and early 80s. Once again, we see the hamburger color scheme, but this time a little more raw red meat. Often matched with a ketchup and mustard plaid detail on the top, it does give us the complete picnic or barbecue motif, which tracks for flame broiled and the unmistakable char taste of every burger. This era is marked by would-be celebrities in their first big break, donning the memorable uniforms and appearing in various commercials. BK must have seen something in both Leah Thompson and Elizabeth Shue, getting a jump start on the Back to the Future universe using both Lorraine and Jennifer. Well, Jennifer number 2 in a number of well-known commercials. One even includes their littlest spokesperson who was part of a McDonald's smear campaign. Before she slayed vampires, Sarah Michelle Gellar slayed BK customers in advertisements in '82, including one with all 3 of these major stars. Let's not forget Meg Ryan stepped into the same uniform, and Leah Thompson was joined by future Brat Packer Andrew McCarthy as a Pepsi driver. Just a few years before BK went Hollywood, Burger King showed their soul that gave some employees an incredibly funky look, and others just a clown. No, not that clown. At least they could blend in with the building itself. Burger King went full-on hot dog on a stick before there was a hot dog on a stick. These bulbous monstrosities were simply a continuation of the bold lines of condiment colors. As most of us are aware, these unique costumes provided a feeling of solidarity to all who worked there. The consistent color schemes and specific looks helped define the brands that we were growing to love, while the team atmosphere they created provided a workforce that knew what great service was and what it meant to the establishment and their jobs. Today, I can totally imagine the t-shirt options are comfortable, sometimes even a variety of designs are available, but they have lost their identity and their recognition, to be sure. Is the loss of those highly recognizable and memorable uniforms and the once taken for granted service a coincidence? Probably. I wasn't going to forget to include a pizza parlor. Back when a generation enjoyed a night out for pizza pie, it had to be Pizza Hut. And when it came to camouflage, the Hut did it best with their servers blending right into the stereotypical Italian restaurant design. Red and white check. On the curtains, the tables, and your uniform, Pizza Hut employees were just part of the atmosphere. And what an atmosphere it was. I still miss going into these fun stylized huts with the iconic font and sitting under stained glass lights and drinking from cheap classy cups while waiting for a fresh pizza to come to our table and then spending some quarters on the ever-present video game consoles. Before we embraced delivery and the 30 minutes or less, a night out at Pizza Hut was an event. Long before the red caps and the black t-shirts or even the tablecloth designs, Pizza Hut had also taken part of the deep brown revolution, with a touch of kitchen cabinet orange and sometimes, just to class it up, elevated the experience with a scarf. A cute ascot that takes any hostess from fast food to fast casual. Too bad these uniforms and the overall customer service are gone. Then again, so is their incredible tasting pizza. Distinct uniforms had been long replaced with simple, comfortable, and very boring options that are anywhere from t-shirts to polos. With the decline of the inimitable uniforms and the branding of napkins and other accoutrement, service has also plummeted. There are various reasons people will argue. We all just grew to expect the excellent service we got more often than we didn't. But what can we do? Times like that were part of an era past, the GEN Xperience, a time that gave us so much of what we still long for today. Nothing says burgers like deep brown polyester, some yellow, maybe a touch of orange, just like baby spew. These were some of my favorites, the grooviest looks from back in the day when uniforms brought us together, reminded us of a fast food establishment's common goal: good times, great taste, and genuine service. What was your favorite uniform from this time? And tell us, did you ever have the honor of wearing one? Let us all know, and please take a moment to like, comment, or supersize that request with a subscribe. I have nothing to back up my claim that uniforms brought better service. But hey, they can unify a workforce. Unify, uniform, it's in the name. You deserve a break today, so please check out more great content on the channel, and until next time.
11 herbs and spices make it finger licking